Hi, good day, and welcome to another edition of AEA Insights. My name is Daniel Odo. Today, my guest is Engineer Jabesh Amissah-Arthur, Managing Partner of Arthur Energy Africa. Today, we're going to be discussing a topic about solar energy and solar penetration in Ghana and across the sub-region. We're going to ask about the importance, the benefits, if there are any, of solar penetration in Ghana and what, as a country, we can do or should do about solar penetration in Ghana. I hope it's a topic that would pique your interest and give you some insight into the topic I'm about to discuss. Engineer, thank you very much once again
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Thank you, as
Always
always.
looking very colorful and dapper. You don't look your age. I should mention. I should come for some tips on me.
Thank you.
But let's talk about solar. At the tail end of our last conversation, we kind of veered off into the topic of solar energy, and it's something that I see you're very passionate about. Um, why, in your opinion, do you think the topic has become very popular these days? A lot of people doing solar as residential options because maybe they can rely fully on ECG and all of that. But where is this interest coming from?
Well, as you rightly pointed out, in some cases it has the drive for people doing this has been lack of reliability of grid supply to them and to their residences. In some cases, it has been cost and various other reasons. I think some people are also motivated just by the effort to live greener lives.
Right.
But what has happened is that the technology has gotten so much cheaper that it's possible to have it, especially on your roof, and let it take care of a large part of your load. I have a few friends who claim that they have gone virtually completely off the grid and they are independent of the grid. And others appreciate the financial savings from using that. So there are various reasons people are deploying
Okay.
these solar systems. But on the grid, it's quite often because of the price that for bulk purchase or what they call large scale utility solar facilities, the costs have come down significantly such that the long term or life cycle cost is comparable or better than most of the other generation technologies that are available. That is what the technology has evolved to.
Yeah.
And therefore, there's an incentive to have that as a lower cost production in your mix.
Okay.
So that is the primary motivation for it. But as we were discussing last time, and I was trying to explain last time, when you look at the life cycle cost, and you are getting something like 5 cents, which is better or comparable with the best of the hydros that we have, and is far better than any of the thermal generation that we have. When you look at the life cycle cost, it suggests that you should do a lot of the solar. But that life cycle cost is true life cycle cost, but as I was trying to explain last time, for a developing economy like ours, where the peak load doesn't happen during the day but happens in the night, the life cycle cost is not a good indicator
Okay.
because you are having to build your conventional plants all the same as if you didn't have solar. So the capacity contribution of the solar to peak load is nil. And so you can't consider that. And therefore, the costs are different in life cycle costs, which is the cost of the plant over its life divided by the energy that it will produce, gives you the cost per unit of that of power from that plant for its life. That is not a good indicator for us, and it's not a valid one, because if you followed that and use that for system development, you'll make a big mistake because you'll be doubling the investment cost for your facilities. So that is something that you were saying I was passionate about. I'm passionate about because I think that we have to tailor the recommendations that we get from our development partners to respect the critical and factual needs of our network and how it will work or how it will not work in our system, and therefore to what extent it's acceptable in our grid.
We'll come back to how all of this play in our national grid conversation. But I want us to first start from the individual consumers. Is it a good option to have if indeed our peak time for the average person is in the evening? Why am I considering solar if half the time I will be at work, for example, and I will not have need for it when the sun is up?
Those who are doing this and having pleased with it, they have batteries.
Okay.
So they store the production and then they use it throughout the day.
Okay.
So they store the solar production during the daylight hours and then they use it throughout
Yeah.
the night. Most of them say that it's able to support them throughout the night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm sure for very heavy equipment like air conditioners, that would mean very big batteries. And I mean, even though it's cheaper these days, it's not cheaper to a lot of ordinary Ghanaians, you would say.
Well, I think that every individual has to look at it and what the cost will be. There are companies that are offering solutions. You have to look at it and see how that works for you. But some people are telling me that it powers their air conditioners. They have no problem throughout the night, and they are okay.
For many years, there were people who said it was a no-brainer that we venture into solar because we are in the part of the world where the sun is blazing half the time, and so it was a good thing to have as part of our energy or power mix. And they say if a lot of people go solar, that's taking pressure off the national grid. Is that perception accurate?
That perception is accurate to the extent that individual homes are doing it. It's accurate. It takes the load off a grid. But what most often is missing in that conversation is, for each of these things, there are limits.
Okay.
There are limits. So if you take an estate and you were to install solar on every home beyond each home's needs, then the end result will be that that estate, instead of power flowing from the grid into the estate, power will have to reverse and flow out of the estate. So, but when you have these conditions of power flowing in and power flowing out, it becomes very difficult for the utility and the operator, because the protection systems are now going to have to change. It's not just the metering. The protection of the supply has to change, because now he can't guarantee that right now, if there's a fault within the estate, theoretically they could switch it off at the sending end, and everybody in the network will be safe.
Okay.
But now you have generators coming in and pushing the power backwards. So if they switch off there are still voltages. So it becomes a safety issue as well, and it becomes a protection and control issue.
Okay.
So beyond a certain point, as long as there wasn't net exporting out of it, probably you could get away with it. But that is not the end of the story.
Okay.
So it has to be, there are limits within that must be respected. And so far, the proposals have not gotten the point of discussing these limits. And that is what we need to start discussing. I was talking about, we make a distinction between these standalone home systems and then utility scale. That is the large scale ones that supply the utilities. It has been found, for instance, that beyond a certain percentage of your demand being supplied by solar, you start to get other problems with your network. And in the last a conference I was in, Senegal was reporting that they had reached a solar percentage of 19%, and they were having problems. And technically they are having challenges incorporating more than 19% of solar in their grid. It becomes unstable. And so there are some of these things that have to be watched. And if what they are experiencing is the same thing that we will experience, if we are to learn lessons from that, it will suggest that with our peak load of 4,000 megawatts, if that 19-20% limit was to apply to us, it will suggest that when you reach that level of what we call variable renewable energy includes solar, those that you cannot rely on to dispatch steadily, but you are depending upon the weather, you are depending upon the sunshine, you are hoping there are no clouds, there's no rain, those that are depending on wind, that the wind is steady and so on. Those that vary, whose production vary, we call them as a group, variable renewable energies.
Okay.
Now, when variable renewable energies reach that limit, you start to get problems. So if Ghana, what, let's say, I'm saying Senegal is experiencing, if it was supposed to apply to us, then that means we have to be watching it as we are approaching 800 megawatts of solar, because beyond that, it will be difficult for the network to sustain it. So there are various limits that we have to respect. We were also earlier on talking about the problem of replacing the solar generation between 5 and 6 p.m.
Yes.
And if you get to that level, and I was explaining that at that level, the network operator will not be able to start conventional power plants to catch up and to pick up that load. So there are some of those limits that we haven't focused on, and we have to do that. The regulators have to pay attention to that. There are studies that indicate where these limits are likely to be, and therefore we have to control the total amount of these variable renewables that we have in the network and know when they are approaching those points, so that we don't end up making investments way beyond that can't be incorporated.
Okay. You were once heading Bui, and I know for a fact Bui has a solar farm. I'm sure there was some basis to wanting to do that from the very beginning. What was the philosophy behind it?
Yes, we looked at it carefully and decided on how much solar we were going to do. And we have set a threshold for that we won't go beyond that, because that is what we could do. We called it hybridization, where we use the hydro plant to support the solar generation so that it can be a steady and reliable supply into the network. And I think at the time we were talking about a ceiling of 150 or 200 megawatts of solar, that we can use the hydro plant to make a hybrid and sell. And we made the determinations and we got the permission to do that. So that is, if we do that, that's 150 megawatts or 200 megawatts.
Okay.
But what I'm talking about now is a national limit. So if 200 megawatts is taken by that, then there's probably 600 megawatts left. So the regulators and the licensing agencies have to be watching that to make sure that all the other licenses they give don't add up to more than what we know to be the likely point at which we will have problems.
Do you think we even know, like you said, the Senegal experience? Do you know? I mean, and I don't. I mean, I won't fault you if you don't. But do you know where we are at the moment?
There's a lot of definitional issues with renewable energy. We track the renewable energy. When we started tracking renewable energy and solar penetration, we weren't adding large hydros.
Okay.
But then somewhere along the line, I think the ECOWAS heads of state made a decision based on what other nations were doing, that even the large hydros will have to be considered as new renewables.
Because if they too need water to be powered.
Yeah, because other countries were publishing their renewable percentage including their
Hydro.
large hydros as renewable.
Okay.
We were not. So when we go to a conference, we are saying that, oh, we have achieved 5%, then they are talking some large percentage. But this is what. So ECOWAS heads of state, I think, decided that ECOWAS, we will also consider large. And when you consider large, then Akosombo, Bui, Pong, all of them come in. Then the percentage is very high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you had previously mentioned where our peak period lies, and the fact that because our peak period or peak time is in the evening, it really didn't make a lot of sense to overly concentrate, for want of a better word.
Yes, I was saying that because unlike the industrialized nations, our peak load, that is driving additions to our grid and additions to our generation, our peak load occurs in the evening.
Yeah.
And that is what is driving generation additions into our network. And since solar, forget for a moment that you could put batteries and then let it contribute. Since typically solar doesn't contribute to that evening peak, you still have to construct conventional plants to meet that. And therefore, the benefits of solar injection are not the same for we, the developing countries, as they are for the developed countries. And our regulators and our policymakers have to be aware of that. It's something that, let's say, the Europeans and the North Americans don't understand, that solar does not save us anything. We still have to buy and build thermal plants and conventional plants because of our evening peak.
Wouldn't you rather champion behavioral change such that we are more productive during the day than this reverse scenario where we are using more power in the evening, and it is not necessarily for productive uses because we are powering our ACs, we are watching television and all of that?
Well, it is a bigger economic question.
Okay.
And that pattern is not limited to Ghana. This pattern I'm talking about, that's why I'm saying it's a pattern of the developing world. If you look at, somebody once says that from the power perspective, the way to tell whether a country is industrialized or is a developing country is to look at their daily load pattern.
Right.
When the daily load pattern shows that the peak occurs in the evening, that's a developing world or undeveloped economy. When it occurs during the day, that is a developed economy. So it is not something that we can just wish away. It's linked with the economic structures and the productive structures of the economy. If you have the bulk of your citizens or the largest employment of your citizens being in the agricultural sector and producing in the field, it's not possible to change that pattern overnight. You have to have the dominant portion of your power consumption being in factories and industries and so on for that pattern to begin to even out. So it's not an issue for the power sector alone to solve. It's a wider question of the economic structure and for the countries. And as I'm saying, it is all across the world. All developing countries have this problem.
This is still AEA Insight, and we're having a conversation about solar penetration in Ghana, and also looking at some lessons and insights from other African countries. We specifically mentioned Senegal and some of the challenges they're already encountering with a near 20% solar penetration in that country. What will be an adequate solar penetration in Ghana? 19%, 20%? What are the policymakers saying about this? Today, my guest has been Engineer Jabesh Amissah-Arthur, Managing Partner for Arthur Energy Africa, and he's quite experienced in these matters, and so really the man to have these conversations with. So, Engineer, before we wrap up our conversation, everybody, this seems like a fad. Everybody's, if you have a little money, you want to go into green energy, solar energy. But as a country, do we have enough structures, policy to guide us? Are there enough experts speaking about these things and pointing us to signposts of challenges and some of the downsides we have to look at?
I think that we need a few more people looking closely at these things. We need a few people who also understand the entirety of our power grid and how it operates to be able to appreciate some of these things you are talking about. You see, if you have a developer who is only interested in his solar, he doesn't have this broader perspective of how it works in the national grid and what the national grid needs and what doesn't need. So we need a lot more people who have that overview of the national system and how it operates and what its constraints are, looking at this. But right now, what we have is you have a developer who is developing his solar, and that's all he's focused on. And he proposes that, and he's blessed to go ahead and do it. But we need the people who understand the national interconnected system and how it operates to judge how we do this. Now, I think that talking about solar penetration, I think that in Ghana, we have a great advantage to quickly get up to the limits of variable energy that we can have, variable renewable energies that we can have. But we have to set up the framework right. Every solar initiative requires backup power and intermittency mitigation, what we call intermittency mitigation. Intermittency mitigation is that your solar is producing, suddenly rain clouds come over, then the production goes off.
Yeah.
Now, to be able to make it commercially viable, you need somebody who will guarantee that when suddenly there's cloud cover, we will produce to substitute what you are producing. That is typically intermittency mitigation. So he guarantees you or guarantees your customer that whenever there's cloud cover, I'll step in for him and produce the energy that the cloud has prevented him from producing. Then there's also the evening requirement, which is typically called backup power. So those two services, backup power and intermittency mitigation, are important for making solar appealing and for increasing the solar integration to our national grid. Now, I'm saying that we in Ghana have an advantage for integrating the optimum amount of solar in our network by using our big hydro reservoirs as a battery bank. What you do is, when the solar has sunshine and is producing, you reduce your production from the hydro. In essence, you take the energy solar is producing and keep it in the bank as water in the reservoir. Then in the evening or whenever it's needed, you let that water through and you replace the energy that they produce. Now, we have such large reservoirs, Akosombo and Bui, that can offer that. But what we need to do, if we want to quickly get to the optimal amount of solar, is to have a framework where these two plants are compensated for providing this intermittency mitigation and backup power for anybody who wants to put up the solar, so that we value it as a service, and then anybody who is putting up solar, those are the standard provisions and the standard pricing for these two plants to provide you. So whatever you produce, there's a certain portion that you pay to these plants for serving you. If we did that and we made that a standard framework that is offered to all plants, all variable renewable plants, it will make it easier for these plants to come in. So you want to put a 50 megawatt solar plant in a place, you do it, and the arrangements for intermittency mitigation and backup supply are already there. They are standard, international. And the payments you make to these utilities for providing your facility that service, they are standard. That way, we can have true competition in the procurement of the solar. And we can have effective pricing of the solar such that we optimize it and we know where the limits are. So as we approach the limits, we slow down.
If I'm an average Ghanaian, I'm listening to you and I want to play the devil's advocate, would I be asking you if you were a utility provider, would you be worried about your revenues if a lot more Ghanaians are resorting to greener or solar energy?
I don't think I'll be worried, because that is the fact of where the world is going. So what any business has to do is to look for where is its growth markets are. So we have to explore where our growth markets are,
Okay.
and then go into that. And if, let's say take a company like our 2 hydro facilities that I'm talking about. Once your hydro plant is built, your average production for the year is limited by the Almighty God and His rainfall.
Yeah.
There's no growth there. You can't do anything to grow it. The only thing is to explore some of these new markets I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So how do you market the services you can provide using your reservoir in terms of intermittency mitigation for variable renewable plants, and also for backup supply for these? That is a growth area for you. So people, all businesses have to focus on where the market is presenting them opportunities for growth. And you have to look at that and exploit that. Because if you behave like the big industries in the past, you sit on your laurels, and we remember big companies like Nokia and Kodak. Where did they go? You have to move with the times. There's no point worrying about I'm losing my market. There are new markets opening up. You have to look at that and move there. And I think that even the oldest of our plants have some of these new markets they should look at and go into and make standard arrangements and earn more revenue from there and grow from there.
If anybody is in policy or is a key stakeholder and is watching, what would be the biggest takeaway as we conclude this episode of our interview?
My view about the solar sector is that these are the 2 things it needs. We need to establish what the optimum levels and the thresholds are, and limit them to that. Otherwise, we let people make an investment beyond which it will not benefit us. That is one. The limits, also from what I've said, the limits based on what the network can absorb and operate stably. The limits from what the network operator can replace between 5 and 6 p.m. That challenge is a big challenge. So those 2 are one. And then the third that I'll suggest is that coming up with a framework for common provision of intermittency and backup services by those plants that have the ability to do that. So that then the playing field is level, and then we can have free competition for the best price solar facilities.
Thank you very much, Engineer. Always sharing your insights and experience with us. We are really grateful.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
This has been another edition of AEA Insights. Today, my guest has been Engineer Jabesh Amissah-Arthur, Managing Partner of Arthur Energy Africa. And he's been, shedding some light on solar energy and other renewables in our generation mix. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. We are back another time with another edition. Until then, it's bye for now.